In today's journey, we take a look at how well 8.3 pounds of water fits into different containers, and what that means for home brewers and vinters. And unlike the guys at the local homebrew shops, we will not be sugarcoating any of the downfalls that these vessels have, which there are plenty. Do check out the affiliate links down in the description though, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But let's take a better look at how well a gallon fits into some of these vessels. And a true brewmaster would tell you that 8.329 pounds is how much a gallon of water weighs at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's what we have in each one of these vessels, with no added sugars or anything else that you would have in a recipe. And you can see already some of them are a pretty tight fit. And clearly that Erlenmeyer is leading on that approximate for its numbering. That's probably because Erlenmeyer flasks are a boiling vessel, not a measuring vessel. But all of these vessels fall prey to the problem of tolerance. That is to say that during the manufacturing process, the dimensions could vary from batch to batch ever so slightly. That is why all vessels should be calibrated by the end user, which is basically what we're doing right now. And because it's his favorite color to hate the most, we'll start with yellow. Often referred to as the 1 gallon wide mouth glass jar, it has been relegated to being used mostly for vinegar these days, because as you can see, it doesn't really hold 1 gallon very well, and that's before you've added anything else like flavor or yeast. And a lot of customers would complain that it wouldn't hold pressure very well during fermentation. This one has a fancy aftermarket lid with a special gasket inside. Although Phil's still a huge not fan of the way they drilled the hole in it. Had a bunch of flares and burrs sticking out of it. And not great. But apparently Phil is enamored with the fact that he can suck water up into the airlock with the lid like this. So needless to say that if you were to get a blow-off or vigorous fermentation in this vessel, it would not end well. Only pro, it's a cheap vessel that you can stick your hand in. But up next we have the 1 gallon glass growler. What makes this stand out from the ones you get from the grocery store is it's got that little head space after a gallon mark. And sure, that's plenty of room to do a primary fermentation on a meat or something, but I wouldn't want to go around throwing in some extra ingredients like some fruit without taking away some of the liquids first. And as far as beer goes, you should only use this as a secondary 1 gallon. It's just not going to have the room for the Kreuzen. It is, however, a tried and true favorite. Though skip the screw cap and use the bung instead. But here's one we found on Amazon that we hope will become a new staple in the industry coming up. It has a decent amount of headspace on it. It's only a gallon, but it does have a bigger brother that you can order as well. And that's probably the one you should get because it's 1.1 gallon, giving you 0.1 gallon of headspace that's always there for you. In fact, this one's not even sold for fermentation in the first place. We just happen to see that it takes the same lid as our 1.5 liter jars. And that's probably its biggest downfall, is that you can't just buy this off the shelf and use it for fermentation. You'd either have to drill a hole in a lid, or you can buy 2 separate jars and swap the lids. Not very cost effective. And they all share the same flaw, not enough space, unlike this Erlenmeyer flask. Well, there's even more space than these numbers tell you there is. So much more room for activities and fun ingredients like fruit, yeast, and other oaky things. And at first this size 12 bung may seem annoying, but that means you can get stuff in and out with somewhat ease. And because it's lab equipment, you can even boil in it if you needed to. And the cherry on top is that it's not even hard to get equipment. We get ours from lab suppliers, but these are also available from any homebrew supply shop that has LD Carlson products. We'll make it even easier. Just check the link in the description. So it can ferment meads, primary a beer. What's the downside? Well, it's a little pricey and it's big. It takes up a lot of space. Its actual volume is probably closer to 6,000 milliliters, and that's well over a gallon. Some might say that the head space is too much, but that's not a problem for primary. That's a problem for secondary. But the only reason we don't use these more is because of their size. At 15 inches tall and 9 inches wide, it's big. We only own one because it's that big even when we're not using it. In fact, it's so big, you can't even use a mini auto siphon with it. It's just too big. But we don't think it's going to stay king for long, as this new 1.1 gallon jar is contending to be king. So fresh from delivery, it hasn't even had a chance to have its lid swapped out yet. But once that happens, this should be one of the best jars used for 1 gallon fermentation, as it has a large opening, one that you can stick an entire hand in, but it also has an amazing seal, like most wide mouth jars don't. The only drawback is that it doesn't come with a fermentation lid right out of the box. But if obscurity is your name-o, then I introduce you to the 1.3 gallon Demijohn. This can not only take a full 1 gallon, but it has enough headspace to ferment a primary. However, its narrow neck design makes it a bit harder to clean than most carboys for some reason. Probably because it has a smaller opening and takes a size 6 bung. This also does not play well with the mini auto siphon, though it comes with a hat. In fact, it comes with a whole basket to keep it safe, but we normally just throw that crap out unless we're working with one of the bigger Demijohns. Now, something that's disappointing is that there is a wide mouth version, but the mouth just doesn't have a good lid. It's just not great. That is, unless you're going to do something that's open ferment style. With other options, we don't really recommend it. Though, what we do recommend is the 5,000 milliliter if you're going to do something wild and crazy with a big fermentation. And until recently, it really was the only one with a big enough opening to do a lot of the stuff we'd like to do. And don't hesitate to ask any questions down in the comments about any containers that you would like talked about more. Now, excuse me as I go make sure that Phil's actually doing his job in the basement and making new recipes for you to follow and new videos. And if you liked what you've seen so far, check out some of these other videos on your screen.